All right, I'm good.
All
Good.
right.
Are you okay, Carlos? I'm scared that people just dropped out. Oh my God, he's not saying anything. What's going on?
Migoy, hold me.
Oh God, he's not actually. Oh,
Oh shit, did we lose him again?
it went green. Oh, I hear debris falling.
Oh dear God.
The plate has fallen again.
The plate has fallen again. God
Giant
damn it,
pizza.
Rude.
Okay.
Damn it, Rafi.
Okay.
Damn it, Reno.
What happened? What did you curse Rafi's name?
Oh, because he destroyed Sector 7.
Yeah, he destroyed Sector
Rafi
7.
and Huarang destroyed Sector 7.
Wow.
He was Warang, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because we kept making that joke even before the remake came out.
Warang
So
was,
when
he was always
when,
Warang.
when he blocks passage, does he humwarang? No. Okay.
When who blocks what?
When Huarang blocks something, is that when he makes humwarang?
I don't get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That joke's not meant for me.
It's all right.
Or me.
I'll workshop it.
Hey guys, episode 200 of the TMG podcast, and this is Carlos. And with me is Matt
Hello.
and Miggy.
Hola, ¿dónde está el video game?
And this episode is focused on one specific title. Since this is a special episode, I'd like to think it's all focused on Final Fantasy VII Remake, which
The game.
even
the
if we
legend.
don't want to make it a special, even if we didn't want to like talk on one specific on this only,
Oh
We
no,
had no
we
choice.
planned this like 199 episodes ago.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
knew.
Yeah, we knew. We knew. Like,
Foretold.
it was density. You know, like we knew when the game was coming out. We had the inside scoop on when the release date would be, and we just
Yeah, man.
made sure every episode came out leading all to this.
oh, and
I got a
wait, no,
personal text
no.
from Yoshinori Kitase saying that you should do episode 200 on this day.
No, and
For
just to be
special.
just to be actually sure, we knew about the delays as well. We just had to keep quiet
Yeah,
and
man.
everything.
We
So-
caused the delays so that it would tie into episode 200.
Yeah, I mean, well, you got the word from Kitase, and I was talking to Nomura, and you know,
Yeah, Nomura didn't even know he was the director yet, you know?
yeah,
That was the
exactly.
thing,
Yeah,
that
he
was the
did.
thing. Yeah. No, but yeah, we just so happened that everybody in TMG is just literally was playing the game when it came out. You know,
The week has been nothing but Final Fantasy
it was just
7.
yeah. We like
Whether
I
you
mean-
have it or not.
I know, right?
no matter what. Like I think that week it came out, we were just everybody was just filled with like Cloud,
Yeah.
fan.
There was
base,
no avoiding
FIFA, photo, videos, streams everywhere. I think it was like top 5 in Twitch. Everybody wanted to talk about it. Everyone wanted to play it, and it lasted I think a whole week until I think this week.
Yep.
I think around this week is when okay, I'm done. I finally finished the game.
It's still going. I mean, you know, the land of video game social media is just Animal Crossing and Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, which, like, Animal Crossing is the other time sink. You're either doing one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, people play Resident Evil 3 too, but that's a 6-hour video game. That's just
It's a
fucking
6-hour
done.
game.
blink and you're done.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, it's where do we start with Final Fantasy VII? Like, I finished it. Miggy
So
finished
have
it.
I.
Matthew is
Indeed.
very close to finishing it. So
Yep.
He's close, but he's still a significant number of hours away.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
so
for sure.
I've been in like 32 hours into this game already, and I'm still
You got at least
only
another, like, 10 or 15 on you.
yeah,
He's right.
depending.
Yeah.
I'm already at the point now where I'm just like, you know what? I've done literally every side quest for every chapter leading up to this point. I think I might consider just skipping all the side quests after that and save
Right.
it for
And
save it for a replay.
you've mentioned that you're in chapter 13,
yeah.
and I just told you that you're literally before the chapter where it's all side quests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you know, as Carlos already said, like, you know, this isn't a spoiler cast necessarily. We're just here to
Talk
sing
about
the praise.
the
Yeah, to
Right.
sing the
The
praises of
systems,
this
the
game.
combat, the everything
Yeah.
else except the story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if someone wants to actually discuss about the ending or the a podcast that's filled with with spoilers, check out the other one, which is also part of the 200 episode special, and that's where
And
we all
I'll
go out.
also, I'll also
So-
be working on our official review for TMG at toomuchgaming.net.
Yes, Matt
Nice.
is assigned to Final Fantasy VII R, and but yeah, where do we start? I don't know. There's a lot. We all liked it. That's one thing. We definitely
Yeah, okay,
we
how
love
about-
it.
how-
Like that's one thing we can start with. That we definitely. This is a video game. This is a good video game. If you
It's
just
a
Yeah,
video
okay.
game.
if you take
like,
out
to the
all
point-
Mm,
I mean, like it's a video game where it doesn't shy away from that
yeah.
to the point
Yeah.
that it's a little silly sometimes.
Yeah.
I think what helps to that is because the character, like Square Enix is known for having incredible graphics on their characters. Like they look real. The hair is already its own character and all that.
Mm,
So like when a character in like say Final Fantasy VII Remake does something a normal person wouldn't do, or at least someone with a sense of logic and common sense wouldn't do, you want to yell at it for not being realistic, and then you remember like, oh right, it's a silly video game from 23 years ago. I forgot.
Yeah, you know what? I'm very amused. I'm glad you pointed out the graphics, Miguel, or the visuals and the art design. Because to me, it's really funny that when I'm playing this game, it looks like a triple A ass video game. You know what I mean? Like it's got that whole
Yeah.
cinematic,
Yeah.
photorealistic, stylized look. And then so I'm just like, oh, okay, all right. Everything feels very triple A ass, Naughty Dog, whatever. And then the camera will spin and whoosh. And I'm like, oh wait, I forgot. This is a Japanese stylized anime, JRPG game. So it's a very interesting aesthetic to me to see things like, be like a mashup of those two things. Because there aren't a lot of Japanese role playing games that are privileged with these kinds of production values.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting fusion, I think. JRPG plus AAA, whatever.
I actually like how more cinematic this game has turned out, because Square's, they like to make things pretty, but their past titles have had moments where, at least for my perspective, where like, oh, that scene would have looked cooler if they emphasized this character making like a facial expression close up before doing a certain action, or emphasizing a certain moment that gives that like action more power. Like my example would be, I guess, even in Advent Children, remember when Barrett shows up for like the first time,
Yeah.
and then he like puts his robot hand, which he didn't have before,
on the shoulder.
on the shoulder of a character, and then it transforms into this giant gun with like 50 like gun barrels on it.
Yeah, and you see the whole
Yeah, I
hand
forgot
movement
the whole-
and the
yeah.
gun barrel before you even see Barrett's face, because it's trying to be like very cinematic and be like,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
this is Barrett, but we'll let you like for these 5 seconds feel the build up to revealing, oh, it's Barrett.
Right, but then the moment isn't very powerful. Like, sure, he's dealing minuscule damage to this giant dragon.
Yeah.
But the moment where if they emphasize the transformation a bit more of his arm into that silly gun, like how a Power Ranger emphasizes his weapon before he deals a finishing blow.
Yeah.
You got like strong motions, solid camera zoom in cuts, and all that. I think that would have made it look cooler, because otherwise, like, who was that? What happened? Oh, I guess that's his gun. Oh, it's cool, I guess.
And I think Final Fantasy
So-
VII does actually a better job at
It
actually.
does a lot of that, and I love it.
It does a lot of
Right,
that, but it's also toned down. Like it does the job, but it doesn't go all the way over. That's what you were
It
describing.
goes like off the rails when it needs to.
When
But then when it
happens.
doesn't, you're questioning like the game, because like, oh my god, this character can't go past this wall, and then you're like, you fucking jumped twice that height in a cutscene beforehand. Like, what are you doing?
But yeah,
Video games.
it is like video games, and well, this world in itself. I didn't. When I was actually playing, I think the first 5 chapters, is it for 5 or 5 for first 8 chapters of the game. They really took emphasis of focusing on Midgar in itself. Like here's what you have to do, what you need to do to to make the story move forward, and here's the result of it. That's always been the focus as you go through this ride, and I actually didn't think this is something I wanted out of Final Fantasy VII, because this is just the first part. Everybody who maybe isn't aware, Final Fantasy VII R is based off the first 5 hours of the original game.
I wouldn't say naman 5.
Was it
like
2?
Maybe a little longer than that. Yeah, around 10.
Oh, was it 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first 20% still, you know.
Yeah.
But like even back then, when I played the original Final Fantasy VII, they play Midgar to be such a key thing in not just the story, but at least the motivations of a lot of the characters.
Yeah.
Early on, and then you leave it after doing the Midgar segment, and you're like, I thought there'd actually be more. So
Midgar,
as I was playing it, I was expecting like, we're gonna go back, we're gonna look at the other sectors and all that, but then you don't. Like, there's no reason to go back to Midgar at all.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even let you access certain areas anymore after a certain point.
Yeah, and this
Yeah,
one for the remake, they just went all out. They just like, here's
they did.
enjoy Sector 5, Sector 7, everything, and everything about the world.
Yeah, I feel like what Miggy is pointing out is there's a way that Final Fantasy VII, the original version, sort of makes it like Midgar is a big deal, and it does in fact play a pivotal role in the story and in the way the gameplay unfolds. But once it's done with, it's kind of done with. So it feels like we're in two places with this. It's both important but also sidelined.
Right.
Yeah, and okay. So I just want to get this out of the way. Like, the two of you know this about me already, which is that I am not a big fan of the Final Fantasy games, and I'm particularly not a big fan of Final Fantasy VII. Yeah. Like, okay, and I say
this is what I've known for a long time already, and I think like 2 episodes ago when we talked about the demo of Final Fantasy VII R, I was actually surprised at what your reaction was, which is actually pretty positive.
Yeah, exactly. So this is I'm getting this, which is like so. And the thing is, Final Fantasy VII, even though I'm not a big fan of it and I didn't really enjoy it, I put in all 80 hours into the game to finish it on the original PlayStation, because I felt like I owed it to myself and to like a fan of games to like be familiar with the game so that I could at least speak to it credibly instead of just being one of those assholes who's just like, oh, I played the first 5 hours and I didn't like it, and therefore I've written off everything about it as terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to get the shitting rights, man.
Yeah.
You need to be able to tell people why it sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really spend a lot of time telling people that Final Fantasy VII quote unquote sucks, but at least when I'm saying I don't like it, I can back it up.
You can back it up because you've played it. Yeah. Exactly. Like how as you should do when it comes to criticizing it.
Well, not everybody has the privilege to, or the luxury, or the patience
80 hours
to spend 80 to spend 80 hours to save the world. Yeah.
But I was in I was in college. I had all the time.
All the time in the world.
Yeah.
I was a child when I played Final Fantasy. Jeez.
A child, not even a teenager. A child.
Because I remember when I was a kid, like literally my first JRPG was really Final Fantasy VII. That's where I came from. Like, I mean,
that's exactly the same for me.
That's literally
FF7 popped my JRPG cherry.
Or my PS1 cherry, to be honest, because I played other like Nintendo consoles and everything. Like the first game I played on the PlayStation 1, as far as I remember, it was Final Fantasy VII. And I'm like, wow, this is a bit long, huh?
What is this? What are these Lego people?
Yeah, and much like the demo, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, this whole game has made me a convert to the story and to like the experience of Final Fantasy VII. Like I understand that the original game has meant a lot to a lot of people and has characters and stories that like really form like a crux of their childhood, or at least their identity as gamers. But with Final Fantasy VII Remake, I love that it redresses the whole game, not just to modernize the visuals, but to sort of like make a really strong case as to why these themes work. And I'm not going to go here into spoiler cast territory necessarily, but I do think it's worthwhile to talk about like how this narrative is improved. Like there are ways that Final Fantasy VII Remake tells the story that simply would not have been possible 23 years ago. There's the sense that the voice actors really give humanity and full characterization to characters that were only hinted at through pantomime expressions with their blocky fists and poorly translated dialogue.
That's a really big point because you gotta for those who don't know about the original, those cameras are fixed. They're just in one shot, and then they just play around with that fixed camera angle. So they have to.
Right.
They have no audio, like what Matt said. So all the interpretations of the scene has to be done in the animation and the gestures of the character models.
And you guys know the other games more than I do, but like I know that one of the things that JRPGs did in the Super Nintendo era is they had exaggerated facial expressions, like they just go like that.
No, and at the same time, I think it's a big upgrade, because I think before Final Fantasy VII they were like in sprites territory, which is much more expressive than 3D models, which is a new territory in itself for the industry.
Yeah, and so they used mostly body language and like Barrett's infamous.
His angry stomps, yeah.
Yeah.
Or no, and his gun. He's like he shakes his gun, but apparently he's like angry.
He shakes his fist angrily, and then he does like a little cartoon angry stomp.
Or
then he'll swear in like special characters so that it's kid friendly.
Yeah, and the funny thing is in this game, I mean, it's rated M for matures, but this Final Fantasy VII Remake, they're dropping shit and asshole all the time.
They drop swears in a really good and convincing manner, and I love it.
Oh I love the swearing on it, and I mostly see it coming out from Cloud. I'm like, ooh, wow, okay. I don't.
Yeah,
it's not crass either.
It's not. It's like
that's what I really like about it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of these characters now. I love that they telegraph like Cloud's. Like Cloud has this, too cool for school demeanor, but it's also like hiding a lot of heart, and they telegraph these things so that you can see like how he warms up or how his facade cracks to betray the fact that he wants to connect with other people. He just doesn't know how to let go of himself, to let go of this image he's created for himself to do that. And I think my favorite teeny tiny touch in that game, which shows that, not just acting, but also like, which shows that a real writer got in to write the game, is there's a bit in Sector 5 slums. No, sorry, the Sector 7 slums. There are these two guards. They're guarding the gate.
Oh yeah.
One of them is a rookie, and one of them is like an older senior officer. And he's like, no, you gotta be strict with these dudes. You gotta be all like, say you're not allowed, like you mean it. Like you have to be harsh. And he's like, yes, sir, right? And you can tell he's not comfortable with his job, or at least he has a hard time telling people off, in the strict, boot, what do you call that? Sort of jackbooted manner that is expected of him. Mm-hmm. And then much later in the game, he, this isn't a major spoiler, but much later in the game, he's the one who sort of softens up and lets people through. And, it's not important to the game or the story, but when you see him do it, like you go like, oh, of course he's gonna do that, because I saw him 5 chapters ago, showing how much hesitation he has in his job.
Correct me if I'm wrong as well, but that scene, it's in the original game.
Yeah, but like it's the acting. And
I know. I get your acting, but what I'm saying is, my point is that those small moments in the original, it's a nod, but they perform it in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, here's a nod.
Appreciate these two nameless guys as actual characters at that point.
Yeah.
Like this is a bit of that if you talk to these guards, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah. And because in JRPGs, these guys are
there. You go.
These guys, not just these guards, but characters like these tend to feel disposable.
Mm-hmm. Super.
Yeah.
And
they're so disposable where they don't even have a different character model, even in the remake.
They look the same.
Yeah.
But when they speak, you know who they are, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. So you end up rooting for them at some point too, which I really appreciate.
And you experience those. You could actually miss that what Matt was explaining a while ago.
Yeah, you can just not interact with them early on.
No, but my thing is, like, there's a lot of that. Like, if you just walk around and just eavesdrop on the conversations about, oh my god, what, like this, like the plate, they dropped the plate, not really a spoiler, but stuff like that, or oh my god, the bomb happened. You can actually hear the expressions of every single character that's supposedly being affected by what's going on. And I think that's one of the reasons why my hours kind of like jacked up, and my total hours, because I did
just
walk
run
around
up to every NPC just to see what they say until they loop their dialogue,
which is what we do in JRPGs. instead of pressing X,
just exhaust the dialogue.
Yeah,
I mean,
he said that before, so I'm done with you forever.
And
then you leave.
Yeah, not I don't do that, but I get it. I know the tradition.
And I love that they know what what the
Oh,
fans
yeah.
are like were hoping to get, and then I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's
Right,
good to
because
hear.
like in modern games, when a character is done with their dialogue, they either stop talking or you can't interact with them anymore.
Yeah, they just.
But this
Done.
game, it still lets you interact with them. They just repeat their dialogue over and over again, and it's like, just like back in the day.
Oh my god. No, but it's really great. It's definitely a good nod to those who were huge fans of those that, and at the same time who has no idea, which is really cool about this game. If you have no idea about Final Fantasy VII, this is not a bad thing to start with. Because I think
So I
know-
gotta ask you guys, why if this is the first in the series, why is it called Final Fantasy VII?
Let's go back to like 30 years ago. There's actually a funny video by is it Mega 64
Oh, I love that video. That's
where they get
it's pretty old
Sakaguchi,
now,
the
right?
guy who made the
Yeah.
series, and they keep
Yeah.
asking him to make another Final Fantasy. It's an amazing 5-minute skit.
I always do the Sakaguchi like hip hop thing.
When he's finally free.
I'm free. I also
So,
love. I also love
back
where he
to-
goes
sorry, go ahead.
Where he just goes like, "What's this? They want magic."
He starts mashing on the keyboard. Sakaguchi-san, let's make a movie. And he just heavily sighs and does it anyway.
Oh man, I'm gonna watch that video again later. But anyway, you want to
Yeah,
you want,
back to how it expands on characters, and not just like side characters, because of course it'll expand on side characters, but there was a problem with how they portrayed Cloud and everything outside of the, like, even I guess it's a lot better hidden in the original game because there's no dialogue.
Yeah.
Like there's no voice dialogue.
there's a
so-
vocal performance.
yeah, so you can't hear it. But Advent Children onwards, like Cloud is known to have no personality because he's too cool.
Yeah.
You know, he's very stoic. Then he's just really good at what he does. He's amazing. He's
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me
Can't
of
do him
every
wrong.
other. It's like the typical Final Fantasy hero.
yeah, but
really.
like
it reminds me
especially in
of
the
Squall as
Dissidia,
well, so
Dissidia games,
Here
they
we
were
go.
able to
All right.
install some.
All right,
they
Nico,
were
I'm
able to
excited
install
about
some personality in the other characters. You know, like in certain sections, it's kind of backwards. Like Zidane being this pervy creep dude.
oh yeah,
Ew,
He
don't
doesn't
do
translate
that.
to
He
Dissidia,
was a
Don't-
pervert.
where he's
don't
all
do that.
pure of heart and nice.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
do that to Zidane. Zidane, oh my god.
Oh, but you know he's a pervy man.
Nah,
But in the city, he's like, oh, he's a nice boy with a pure heart that thinks about his friends. Just forget the fact that he's a perv man. Then Cloud is like, I don't know who I am. I'm too
never-
cool. I'll kill you, Sephiroth. Oh my god. So he's monotonous and cool. But in this game, they were able to make it so like when characters do point out that, like, oh my god, you're so cool. He's like, shut up, child. I don't know what you're saying. And you know, you get those cool, like I think my favorite moment was when you do that side quest for the children in Sector 5, and they
Yeah.
start looking up to Cloud, and they're like, "Oh, Cloud, can you do this quest for us? But we
Oh,
don't
that's
have
funny.
any money." And
Yeah.
Cloud's main shtick was, "I'll do anything for a price because I'm a merc, right?"
Yeah, he's like,
Oh,
The kids were
yeah.
all like, "Oh man!" Then
He's
he's,
like,
like,
"I'll do
"All
it for
right,
5,000.
3
I'll-
gil."
yeah.
And like, oh, you will? Okay, we'll scrounge up as much money as we can. And they get all excited. Then like, Ares goes, oh, Cloud, that's so nice of you. Then he tries not to smile and looks away awkwardly.
Yeah.
And then
Then
the whole
you get
quest
moments
is
like
you
that
going,
from
Sorry, go.
you get moments like that from like other characters. Like it gets a bit cute later on when some characters acknowledge that trope without breaking it. So like, there's a moment where Barrett goes like, "Oh, we'll just build another bar."
Yeah.
And then the other characters goes like, "Oh yeah, we will. You're gonna join us, Cloud?" And he's like, "For a price." Then everyone kind of like does a little small smile, and you know, it's a really cute moment.
Yeah. Whenever now, Cloud will always say for a price, but
Yeah, like you expect it at that point.
But the agreement, the thing that everybody can see, they look at Cloud and like what you really mean is you really care.
yeah, like you get a little bit of a smile,
It's
and
just
the characters
code.
try to egg it out of him, and then he goes like, "Nah,
I'm never gonna.
you
never
ain't
gonna
getting a
admit
smile
it.
from me.
I'm never gonna admit it.
I'm only gonna smile for a price."
I like also that bit where one of the characters also like gets a laugh out of him, and somebody's like, "Ha! You laughed."
Yeah, they super pointed out, and he's like,
I'm-
no, I didn't.
Yeah.
He gets hella flustered. It's great.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
great.
it. They're all so adorable. Holy shit.
I love
All of them.
I love the whole like when Cloud had to
So-
go and dress up as a girl, like the reaction of when it happens.
Oh, dude, that's the best part.
That's-
Matthew's not like you've
yeah,
done
I
that
do
part
that.
already, right? Chapter
Yeah.
9.
And it's not really a
Yeah.
but it's just how that scene was. Even you're part of the interaction, actually.
Yeah, because you actually switch a character during that moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
For policy's sake, I think we're safe to talk about some parts of the game.
The cross
that-
dress, because
that-
that's the
that
most
are-
well known.
That's the
In
most
fact, that was
well-known.
like when they
But-
announced the
original.
remake, that was the first thing people yelled about. Like, are we gonna get girl dress Cloud? Are we gonna? Oh, it's better
Yeah.
in the game.
It's like it's just how they once it happened. It's just how they presented the scene, and it's just great.
It's absolutely perfect. That entire sequence.
Yeah,
since
I
we're
don't.
here, since we're here talking about the cross-dressing sequence, I just want to say, like, one of the things that's really genuinely surprising about this game is the ways that the game sort of like responds to the choices and the things you do. Apparently, you get a different dress depending on how many quests or which quests you've completed.
And
Like-
and there's also, if depending on who you talk to on a specific scene, will trigger another scene later on. I don't want to spoil it, but they have those things injected into the game, which I got surprised
Yeah.
the moment it ended. Like,
And
There's like
what?
a secret morality
Yeah.
or girl choice or something like
Like
that.
not a big
Yeah,
thing,
like-
but just
girlfriend
something
point
worth
to this
looking
game.
back. It's not really that
Yeah.
big. It's just okay. I'll go back. Fine.
I mean, the original
There's a
game
trophy
always
associated with it too.
the original
Like the
game
dresses,
always
yeah.
did track your choices to some extent. Like I know that's how it calculates who ends up being your date at the gold saucer
Yeah,
in
man.
the original game.
Oh, that's gonna be a
including-
fun.
Always Barrett,
Yeah, always better. but
the best
but this,
boy.
but this game really does try to answer to those things, like how your performance on one particular motorcycle
Right.
chase scene will determine how Jesse responds to you later.
I sucked at that motorcycle game.
It's very surprising.
But yeah,
And it's also like not as obvious as you'd expect games
Exactly.
to do that too.
Yeah, because a lot of games
'Cause,
they lampshade it. They go like, "Oh, whatever you do will have choices or consequences." Sometimes
They shove it in your face.
they shove it in
your face.
David Cage.
this one's is more like as linear as it can be, but
it's
just-
organic.
It's and then all of a sudden it just throws you that I could have had a choice. I mean, like okay,
Like
Yeah.
the scene is different for different people. Oh my god.
yeah,
It's
and
almost like-
And I thought like especially for one scene, like when the most obvious one of who to get at this certain point. There's a bit because after a certain boss fight, you get to choose who to like address first. You know,
Yeah,
after
yeah,
the
yeah.
fight. And apparently that's part of the choice, but it's not the discerning factor.
so you get to play
So,
around like, ooh, what triggers what?
Yeah, so
I
it's-
like that
it's something
little
people
thing.
had to look up,
Yeah.
like look into to find out what exactly were the moments that determine like what girlfriend points go into whom.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speculate too much about the designer intentions, but it's almost like by making sure that these choices are not advertised or telegraphed, but can be discovered instantly when people like you and me, talk about the game, and they'll discover, oh wait, you mean you got a different piece of dialogue?
Yeah.
It will compel people to go back and go like, oh, okay, now I
Right.
have to to excavate it to sort of
it
figure it out.
it
Makes
actually
more
reminds
interesting.
me. It reminds me of like back in the day in the school playground when you play the game over the weekend, you find something, then you tell your friends at school, and they're like, "Oh man, I didn't get that. Oh, I got this instead." And you're like, "Oh!" Then you go back to the game, and then rinse repeat.
Yeah.
We're kind of getting those moments again.
Yeah, I found
yeah.
about the Knights of the Round Table in school, not in a magazine. Like someone says, you
Yeah.
have to get a black chocobo. Like what? What's a black chocobo? Like
Because it's the only one that can fly.
I'm like a bunch of kids in the corner saying that this is what you do. I'm like, how do you know this? where's this information?
Right, and of course the fabled you can revive Eris in the original
Did you
game.
find out? Did you find out
Also
because he had
came up with
because he had an uncle who worked at Square?
Dude, that's a joke that I didn't come across until I was a man.
Well, And the thing is, by not telegraphing the choices, it's more interesting because when you see a game like something from Telltale games, The Walking Dead, or any of their episodic games, or you play a BioWare game, when the choices are so obviously like going to be there, you have a tendency to be like, well, okay, I know that I can just save my game here or stop my game here and sort of like go back to these choices or whatever.
Yeah.
But the way Final Fantasy VII handles it is very, very like, if not hidden, it's at least through a various combination of interlocking parts that are difficult to recreate unless you want to put in the work. I mean,
or they simply like it just happened. It just resolves like 2-3 hours after.
Yeah.
Like you want, you have
Yeah,
to,
exactly.
you want,
It resolves like chapters and chapters after.
like shit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
And, okay, so characterization. I just wanna nitpick this one thing at least. So, which is that one of the things I'm not a big fan of is what is Barrett. Like Barrett,
angry man.
let me talk about what's great about Barrett first and foremost. What's great about Barrett is that he is a whole character, and in the sense that you get a sense of his motivations, the nuances of his character. They're very, very good. I could write about that shit if I wanted to, and the actor is really good as well. So it's never a question of the quality of work that's been put into Barrett. The thing that is unfortunate is that he still is the Mr. T kind of stereotype that he has been. And I know that goes back to how the original character was written, and also it plays into how Japanese developers tend to see African American stereotypes. But you think, considering how much of the game is incredibly modern and how much of the game has been rewritten to reflect more, not necessarily progressive, but at least more contemporary social norms, it's almost, I wouldn't even say infuriating, I would say incredibly shocking how much they allowed Barrett to still be that Mr. T stereotype, and it's kind of disappointing, to be honest.
I actually like Barrett is my favorite character in this remake because he's the best he's ever been, because he was such a nothing character like outside of the original game. He had like 3 lines in Advent Children, and he's like Japan's least favorite Final Fantasy character, like of all time.
We're not gonna you're not gonna mention the fish nets, but okay.
that comes later, man. Let's not forget the fishnets and the cornrows. But like I'd say Barrett is like, of course he does. I'm Mr. T, big gun on arm, and like it's very akin to his original design, which was that. So I'd say it was a conscious decision to keep him like that, but at the same time they've given him like a real personality. Like, I'd say he's the most honest character of the entire roster.
Yeah,
because he puts on this obvious "I'm a tough guy, like I don't trust you, Merc, god damn it, motherfucker," without actually dropping the F-bomb. But he's the one who doesn't, like, he cannot hide his internal excitement. This man is the dad character and best dad.
Or actually,
he sees the little girl and he's like, "Oh, Marlene, come here, sweet pea, big fun times. We saved the world." And like, Barrett Cloud's right behind you. "Oh, right, goddamn right. Don't trust that Merklin, Marlene."
You'll get your money. You'll get your money.
You get your money. But
here's a little something extra.
I've talked to people who were saying like, I expected Barrett to, be the angry guy persona to Cloud, like at least for another chapter. And meanwhile, I'm like, but everyone is telling Barrett that Cloud is cool and he can't hide it anymore. He even admits to himself that, "Yeah, you're pretty darn cool, Merc." He doesn't say it, but it gets to that point where like he's dropped the act.
Cloud
he's
is
just this excited in the guy.
No,
Cloud is who Barrett thinks he wants to be.
Yeah,
but
it's actually pretty cool. Like Barrett's character, for whatever they've done. What I liked about him was he, among all the other characters, he was the one who first interacted with Cloud the most among all the main characters, and you can see it progress from the start all the way to the end on how they are. And I don't know.
Is that why you got the Barrett scene?
I don't. Okay, here's the thing. Like, I don't know. It's like I don't have any delusions or interest in having that character be changed or revised from what he is, because it's all good stuff. It's all like really good stuff. It's really a matter of aesthetic. Like, you can portray an angry black man who is totally angry black man as angry black as you can get, who doesn't sound like Mr. T.
Like actually, I'm at the point where like he's Mr. T to me, so like I'm
And
happy that they
and
didn't
Mr. T
change
is the
it.
imposter now.
Yeah, actually, but when I played the demo also, and you get to control Barrett for the first time, like, man, he really is just Mr. T, huh? That's kind of boring and disappointing.
Yeah.
But then you get that moment after you beat the Scorpion boss in the elevator.
Yeah.
Then you see Barrett's hands like visibly shaking.
Mm-hmm.
And then he looks at Cloud, who's just like calm and has his eyes
Yeah.
closed, and he's like, he gets that resolve, like, I can't let this merc beat me. I'm supposed to be cooler than him. Like, I'll show him. And like and then he does the speech for everyone too.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
the point
yeah.
that Jesse goes like, just put up with him for me, please. Like he's always like this.
Yeah.
And like, so he puts on the tough guy act, and you see that the Japanese wrote him as the nice like dad character.
His Barrett's desire to perform cool is partly rooted in outclassing Cloud, but it's also rooted in like this Japanese notion of like, I gotta show people
It's hella
I'm
Japanese.
strong, because that's how you inspire people. Even though there are other ways of inspiring people, that's what's in his head as what is the source of inspiration.
Is it like a
It's
half
the only
and half?
thing that gets these people going.
I kind of forgot
Smells.
the dialogue of Barrett, but is it like them like having a hard time balancing between OG Barrett and what they want to modernize Barrett in a way?
Well, this modernized Barrett is very much like the OG Barrett, and I don't even mean that as a negative thing. I'm just saying, when I mean aesthetic, I mean like in terms of like what it sounds like, what it like.
No, I know.
like-
Yeah, I know. But
yeah.
I'm just like, I wonder if they. No, it's just more of me like wondering if it was a tough balance between trying to prevent what you're trying to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It might have been, because they've definitely it's like I said, it looks to be a conscious decision to keep him like this.
Yeah.
Where they kept him very similar to the original, but at
Yeah,
the same
'cause it would
time,
be very-
actually making him a person.
Yeah, because I praised the actor because it would have been very easy for an actor like that to have been all like, because I'm going to presume that the actor is black, which she is actually. Like it would have been very easy for a black actor to be all like, no, I'm not doing this.
Right. But it sounds like he embraced the character.
Yeah, and it's just like, all right, I gotta make this. If I'm gonna do this, I gotta make it like, really work. And at least they're giving me writing and characterization that really works.
I think they did a good job for what they had.
Yeah.
Overall, in all the characters, like I agree with Matt. Like they could have done better with Barrett in that
They
aspect.
could have, but they chose this route.
They chose right instead of left. But it was, it's just, for me, it was actually a big surprise to actually, at least for a fan, in terms of someone who's played the original many times and was actually can't wait to play this game. It's not only the presentation but how the scenes were acted or produced, because there was this one I want to say specifically. I want to go specific which scene, but there's this one scene that when I was seeing it, it was actually well done. At the same time, it reminded me exactly how the original Final Fantasy VII did their presentation or their representation of that scene. And just seeing that original one and at the same time playing the original version in my head, it's like it's almost close to hitting the key moments of this part of the game to a T. And I just appreciate that they're able to nail that all throughout, from start to the end, really.
Okay, so before we move on, I just like to say also like about the other characters where they're all stereotypes to some degree, like Japanese stereotypes in writing.
Yeah, Japanese
like
they lean on the Japanese.
They're all archetypes, but you can't help but really like these characters. Like Wedge is 100% the fat guy. He constantly talks about food. He constantly talks about being like out of energy because he's hungry. His motivation is just food. Like he does the thing where he gets chased by dogs.
He was voiced by the guy in Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad dude.
Apparently,
the voices are all amazing.
Yeah.
I'd say they're exactly what they sounded like to me back when I played the PS1 game. It's perfect. Like it's kind of annoying how much of an archetype they all are, but I can't help but like them all come like the mid and end of this game.
They're likable. They're like
They're so annoyingly likable. I hate it.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I think that a lot of this is into acting. I've said already before, but I think I sometimes feel like some of these actors should be in line to get awards, if not BAFTAs or the Game Awards. But I just feel like Japanese RPGs don't really get a lot of play in the video game awards shows. But but for serious, like all the actors should be considered.
You know
Right.
who, you know who Sephiroth is here?
It's Tyler
He's another
Hoechlin.
Superman.
He's a
Yeah, Tyler
Superman.
Hoechlin.
He's
Like-
another Superman. He's always been a Superman. It's annoying.
It's George Newbern who played him.
It used to be
originally.
George Newman, yeah.
Yeah, but that's just like a shocker. Like, it's like I look back and I'm like, okay, this is actually a nice list of of voice
And,
actors, and they did
like
pretty
the,
well.
the new cast sounds similar, if not better, to the original cast.
I think
which I
we're
also
better than
really
that. I'm better than
No, they're definitely a lot better, but
Yeah.
I'd say that's still subjective to some people. But for me, like, they sound similar enough, but also being a lot better. Because, they sound like people. And
Yeah.
I've also listened to the Japanese voice lines of some of the cutscenes.
Yeah,
And I'm usually the type where, like, oh, sub versus dub, because, the characters' motivations don't come across in most dubs. But I'd say that the Final Fantasy VII English dub is a lot better than the Japanese one. Just because, they're a lot more convincing to me.
Yeah.
Like hearing them as people. And
Yeah.
I really like that.
and it has a little bit of comedy as well, like how they wrote
Oh,
these
dude, yeah.
scenes. Like it's like okay, it's just naturally okay. That was a funny one. Like they actually had good ones.
The interactions between the characters are very organic for the most
Yeah,
part.
it's like I don't felt that cringy, and when those like cheesy moments happen, it's Final Fantasy. It makes sense that happened. That's fine.
There's a lot of attention or praise being given to the English voice actress who plays Eris, and I really love her. She's one of my
Oh no,
favorites.
yeah, and we haven't even
But-
talked about Aerith and Tifa, who's
But
actually again
the
pretty
the
good.
person who I think deserves an award has to be Tifa, the actress for Tifa, because there's
Tifa's
this way
great.
Mm.
She's
There's this
the
way she
most
balances-
real person in this game.
Yeah, because she balances. Okay, so there's this voice that she adopts that is deliberately for everybody else around her, in the sense that when she's speaking to a group of people and trying to motivate people in a little bit, she has this voice quality she adopts, and then it changes the moment she's talking to Cloud in a more personable way, in a more intimate
Right.
way. That is really interesting. It sounds like two voices, but it's really just this reflection of how we as people also like our podcast voice is very different from our speaking voice.
Yeah,
Oh, that's what you think.
not with Miggy, not with Miggy.
Yeah, not with Miggy. No, not with Miggy.
That's a no. That's a negatory.
Yeah, Tifa's probably the most like convincing in terms of voice acting, and
Yeah.
her character is probably like the most non-archetypal so far.
Yeah.
She's also my favorite character
I can't
in
place
the
her.
combat.
Yeah,
It's actually, everything about her is
I
actually
can't
pretty good.
place her archetype. Like, oh, she's Punch Girl, but she doesn't act like one.
No,
Yeah,
she does
because
not.
Yeah, because normally when you do that, when you make Punch Girl is
She's
supposed to be tomboyish.
spunky. Yeah, spunky
Or,
tomboyish.
Tsundere. They make her tsundere a bit.
Something like that. Yeah, small
Yeah.
boobs. But yeah, let's get on with the rest. There's a lot to talk about.
No, yeah, we just talked about like the presentation and the story in itself.
That's already a chunk.
That's a
big
good chunk already. Shit, where do we start?
I want to take
Matthew
a
wants to talk about the music.
No.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
after presentation, like a big key of it is how they interpreted or how integrated the music in everything.
Yeah,
And-
like okay,
oh my
like
God.
music. Like there's an entire in the 23 years since Final Fantasy VII has been released,
Yeah.
we've all got One Winged Angel and a battle theme like burned into our brains.
Right.
Okay, right?
Everybody
Like,
knows it.
that-
The people who don't play Final Fantasy VII knows it. That's
Yeah,
how,
exactly,
That's
yeah.
how.
I mean,
that's how
that's-
influential this game is. To be honest.
Remixes of the battle theme are 60% of overclockedremix.org.
Really? That's amazing.
I'm just joking.
my
I'm
God.
exaggerating, but you know what I mean, right?
It's
Yeah, yeah.
probably true.
It might be.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, and I am I think, okay, some people are saying that there are some people who are thinking that the music is not great, and in the sense that...
Where are these people?
Too overpowering. Like, they don't like the mix for it. Actually, it's precisely those qualities I love about the music. The music, in my opinion, is a little bit extra. Like, there's a way that the music is all, like, very cinematic, and it's being cinematic all the time. Like
I kind of also find it funny how you hear the same song like 50,000 times.
With different,
Like the same song with like at least 20 different versions.
it's
Yeah,
like it's a remix mix of all the iconic ones you like way back in
it's like,
'97.
okay, Miggy, like there is like if you played original Final Fantasy, there's only so many tracks in the game, and what they did was they didn't increase the number of tracks or or motifs. They didn't increase the number of motifs in remake outside of the new theme song, but instead they just said, all right, let's just make 20 remixes. So there's a battle theme for there's a scorpion battle theme, and like the battle theme changes depending on which area you're in.
Right.
And
there's a low key version and then the actual active combat version.
Yeah, and a high key version, and like
then the boss version too for that particular zone.
Yeah, and even when the battle theme isn't in active mode, sometimes the battle theme is in passive mode. So, for example, my favorite version of the battle theme, it kicks into high gear and it goes like ba pam ba pam ba pam ba pam ba pam.
Yeah,
it does that thing, right? And then it gets really extra by starting to play a horn on the underscore, going na 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 underneath, and it makes it sound like the most important battle of the history of battles. Even though
you're in the scorpion fight.
You're fighting rats in the street.
I'm fighting were-rats in Sector 5. That's what I'm doing. And then there's another area where you're walking where there are no enemies, but later in a side quest, enemies will appear in it, and they play that same horn number in a very slow, like melancholy way while you're wandering that empty area. And I'm just like, the composer is working overtime to put leitmotifs everywhere, just so that even if you're not enjoying the battle music, you're sort of being primed to get ready for the battle music.
It's burning it into your mind.
Yeah, and even the Tifa, even the Seventh Heaven, Sector 7, and Tifa like mix of range of themes, they're all sort of like scored even more intensely, that they feel like they're the score to a Disney film. And I mean that in the greatest way possible, because I know Japanese composers are big fans of Disney.
I think it's like it's very what do you call that? It's the music is made to appeal to people who have played the old game, because you get those moments where like, oh my god, it's that song, and then it pulls on your heartstrings at just the right moments. Like when you approach Tifa for the first time in Chapter 3. Like you see her waving at you on the stairs, then you get like the 3 notes of her theme, and like, oh god, it's Tifa.
There's also moments where like, oh wow, that's that song, because they're like really different. Like, oh, I didn't like. I thought it was a new song coming out.
Yeah.
And then like after 30 seconds, like, oh, it's this version of that song. Okay.
So yeah, at least for the combat songs, I noticed the low key ones out of battle more than the ones in battle. Because when I'm in battle, my brain is hard on how do I kill these enemies, right?
Yeah.
And it's usually I end those fights fast enough that it doesn't go into the major, the major chords of the battle theme that sticks in your mind. So I usually just hear the beginning or the transition into it, and like, that's a battle theme that I play. But when it comes to the boss version, then you get like it seems to match up to those moments where like I'm about to land a big hit. Then the big chords come in, and like, oh shit, does it know that I'm doing something cool? or the complete opposite, where like it's playing big parts. I need to do something cool now. Like, I need to make the boss feel like shit. I need to stagger this guy.
No, there are moments where like when I'm doing it, like when I'm fighting a boss or just doing a fight, like, wait, this music seems a bit. This is fitting. This is actually working for me right now. God damn it!
It hits at the right moments when it needs to, or at the very least, it motivates you to do the right things. So there's a way, like the music cheats in that way, at least for me. There's also moments where like I'm just running around the zone and like, is that this song? Like, it fits, but it shouldn't be played here. You get hits of other theme songs going into like mixing with different songs as well. Like I swear I hear like FF8 tracks in certain bits of the music, and it's like it's the same guy who made it. He's doing this on purpose. I swear.
Wall Market's actually pretty interesting because they have like the same music with 3 different versions.
3 times,
depending on where you
go.
And that's actually wow. That's actually pretty cool. Actually, that's a
and
cool
then you start
transition.
humming to it, and you don't understand why. It's great.
So I wanna ask Migoy, since we touched on this just now, how he feels about the combat, because Migoy, absent Miguel Samson, is one of our 2 battle experts.
We're going into the meats.
The meats and potatoes of the combat.
The meats.
Yeah, let me know what you think.
So I like the combat is something I absolutely love. It was something I was looking for more than as I was playing the game. That was what I was itching for. Like, I want to fight more. Just give me quests that make me fight things some more. Like, fuck, these enemies die too fast. Give me a bigger boss challenge, please. And when I get to a boss fight early on,
More.
like the chapter 3 when you're side questing with Tifa.
Yeah.
And one of the bigger side quests is you fight this albino mutant dog that escaped from Shinra. And that boss fight kicks your ass super, absolutely hard, and even in the harder difficulties, that can destroy even your max level characters. Yeah, because it's something where you do 2 quests, then it triggers the final one.
Oh, that's right. The first fight with the dog is just you hurt him half his hit points, and then he runs away.
Then he runs away to the next room, right? The room specifically for his boss fight. So I get to that point where I don't get enough joy from the regular enemies because they die too fast.
Yeah.
Then you get to a boss where it kicks your ass to the point of near death. And then I come off that that was really fun. I want to do it again. And then I get another 5 hours before I actually get to a boss fight.
Yeah.
So that's how much I love the combat. I was trying to look for everything I can do as much as I could up until, it throws a boss fight at you.
I talked about this in a couple episodes ago, and I've mentioned it on Twitter and Facebook before. I kind of feel like this game's combat is an evolution, or you know what it is. I would say that Final Fantasy 15 is the beta version of Final Fantasy VII Remake's combat.
Kinda, yeah. Which is also 15's combat is the beta version of, or the gamma version of what Kingdom Hearts combat has evolved into.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of skills on cooldowns.
Yeah.
But what they did in 7 is the key difference is every action you do outside of your normal attack or blocking has a resource that you need to use.
Yeah.
And that's how they were able to squeeze in the ATB gauge, which is I'd say the best part because it's the most intense thing you can have too.
Yeah, basically chain basic attacks to build up to earn the right to use more skills.
Right, and you need to do it at the point where you can't get interrupted, because once you do, that action is gone because you've burned through the gauge already.
Yeah, I think that's
so
the most interesting thing about the combat also is that what you said is that the game lets you can whiff abilities basically.
You can whiff limit breaks.
Yeah, you can whiff a fucking limit break. That's the thing. It's not entirely unforgiving, but it can happen.
It can happen it's usually a point where either you mistimed it or the enemy just did something really stupid that you did not account for.
Yeah. Cloud's limit break, for example, his cross slash. I hate it when the enemy suddenly
runs away.
Yeah, or he triggers a physical invulnerability for a while, and you're just
yeah.
Or
you do a limit break right before a phase transition, which has a cutscene in between, and did I just fucking waste that limit break? God damn it! It's so good. I really like the combat. What I think what I really like is because it looks like a hack and slash, right? So people go into it thinking it's a hack and slash and just wail on enemies. Then they can't figure out why they're dying.
Yeah,
that's because even if it looks like a hack and slash, and for sure you can tackle it as one, there's a limit. There's a limit to how much you can there's a limit
to
how much you can do, and that's where the ATB gauge comes in, where I find myself constantly slowing down time to think about what action I want to do next with a certain character, or just to check how much gauge everyone has or how much life everyone has.
Yeah,
you need time to think and it's very like strategic in that aspect. Because I used to do that in the old Final Fantasy games where I'd have stop time when I'm checking on items in a menu. Because goddamn, is the original ATB system very stressful?
Yeah,
Back
I
in
also
the day.
think of since you describe it that way, I kind of think of Chrono Cross, where it's like every time you attack, you build up this gauge, and
Yeah.
you can keep attacking if you want to because you're just like, well, I'm just gonna keep attacking, right?
Right.
Hit it until it's dead. But every time you do that, you're filling up a bar that is already full, and so you want to use those skills.
Yeah, you want to be more optimal with your actions.
Yeah, to not waste all that build up basically.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly switching between Tifa, Barrett, and Eris and Cloud.
Right.
Just to be like, and it gets frustrating too sometimes because she's like, when I'm the gauge is filled, and you look, and I switch to Barrett, and I'm like, oh, I have nothing in here to use up that ATB bar that I need right now.
Right.
I guess Barrett's gonna cast Steel Skin again.
I mean, why not, right? Just have him take all the damage for you. I mean, that's his purpose, I'd say.
So yeah,
especially late
isn't that
game.
maximum Fury or something?
Maximum Fury is the best. I love that stupid move. What was I gonna say about the combat? When it comes to that point where you find yourself not having actions to do with certain characters, that responsibility still falls on me because I did not prep for this fight beforehand.
Oh yeah.
Because fuck, he should have had this material and I just didn't give it to him.
Yeah,
Or, you
'cause
know, yeah.
The most
Like the
recent-
game it seems like it's built around that too. To the point that even before we beat the game, like me, Migs, and Carlos were screaming about how this game needs the ability to save loadouts. Because certain boss fights, even during your first run, feel like they demand specific loadouts for certain characters. And if you don't have that, it's incredibly punishing.
Yeah, just a side comment on speaking of that, I think there have been a lot of games lately that have all this customization and they don't give us loadouts. And I'm like, fucking video games, give us loadouts. I'm sick and tired of having to re-equip
Dude,
8
it's
times
the
a day.
All they give us is just a press square before the scene ends. That's all they give us.
Yeah.
At least they give you that, right? That's better than nothing. If you're going into a big fight right after a cutscene, at least it gives you the option to prepare, right?
Which
Yeah,
they
no,
don't. They
I'm
don't
not
describe. They don't even describe if that's actually what they're giving, because I have to figure that out.
It's a tiny button on
Ah,
the left-hand
no,
corner.
no one
and
told
it's so
me that
small.
exists.
It's so small. Yeah, it's so small.
And
I
you have to hold it too. You can't just press
I discovered it. I discovered it once early in the game, and then
Yeah.
10 chapters later, I was like, I haven't seen that button in a long time. Then I reviewed it, and I was like, oh no, that button's been appearing. I just didn't notice all the other times.
That happened to me
exactly.
too. I just pressed what does this do? Oh,
When did that
But
button appear?
my complaint, Carlos, I think our complaint isn't necessarily the ability to prepare. It's the fact that preparing is difficult. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I know. Preparing is difficult, and I
yeah.
definitely want to load up. But it's just funny that just give them a square button. Here's
Yeah.
here it is.
Well, yeah, our Square Enix, ha ha ha.
Oh God.
It definitely needs a
there.
low out because there's a lot. I think I spent like a couple of minutes of just
it needs
fixing
it,
the loadout.
especially come late game and then a bit post game.
Because you're
Like the
constantly
combat can get
switching.
very demanding.
You're constantly switching from
Yeah.
characters to characters depending on where you are in the story. So
Exactly.
like,
That
wait,
too.
I've had countless times when I was in the combat, I was like, oh shoot, Cloud can't do this. He does not know how to heal. Like, what am I gonna do? I cannot do
Honestly,
anything.
I just want the option to play Tifa all the time.
Dude,
I-
me
yeah.
too. I would like the option to choose who I'm running around as, please. That's what's missing in my life in this game.
Yeah, for some
Maybe
reason
next
Barrett
game.
always has overcharge up on the start of the battle every time.
That's the thing. Like I wanted to mention how you can it incentivizes optimizing your actions, and that is one of the things that you can do. So people keep saying now, because the assess materia, I say, is one of the most important parts of the game, right?
ass.
Especially it makes it trivializes a lot of encounters because
because
once
Chadley
you
will love
find
you for
out
it.
the weakness, like of course for the side stuff, like for Chadley and all that, but once you find out an enemy weakness, you can melt through them like butter. Like a single enemy who has kicked your ass countless times can die in less than a minute if you know the weakness. Like their life points will melt absolutely.
Are you a
Like
machine?
even boss encounters will even boss encounters will become a breeze once you know what to do and how to beat them, because it also tells you a of when it becomes immune to certain actions, what it's immune to right now, what will it become immune
Like,
to later, you know. And
Yeah,
then a
tells
bit of
you-
lore too in when you assess. That's cool. That's actually it spoils a few things if you assess the right enemies.
My favorite are Butch Beck and what's his name? Butch and Beck.
Oh, the thieves.
When you beat those guys for the first time, and
I
then
love triple slashing them to death all the time.
when they're dead, or they're hiding, or like
they play dead.
No, no.
Oh, yeah, you know,
when they play dead,
you
when
know-
you swipe your sword, they're gonna like.
Oh, you don't need to swipe. You just need to push them around.
Oh, that's
They'll,
what I
like
did.
wiggle on
That-
the floor.
That's what I did. You know what I did? I walked Miggy. I walked around and I would use them to push them, and I would push them because they were all scattered around. So I wanted
Yeah.
to push them around and form a pile where they're together.
You could totally do that.
And they were going, and I didn't finish making the pile because Jamie told me to stop.
And then when you leave the section, they're like, "He's gone. Let's run, boys!"
yeah,
Damn it, they played dead. But yeah, the combat is, like I said, that you can tackle it like an action game because there are actions that you can do, like per character, where you can cancel out animations, or at the very least, like specifically, kunyari with Cloud.
Yeah, canceling.
Cloud has two key stances, right? The operator mode, which lets you have free movement and has like standardized attacks, or you go to Punisher mode, which is his heavy hitting stance, and
That's
you
just
lose your
tank
block,
mode.
but you get a counter parry, right, on normal attacks. So switching stances, it takes long enough that you can miss your window of attack for certain enemies. But if you do it mid-string on certain animations of your operator stance, you can actually go off the recovery frames and instead use that to switch into Punisher and maybe shave off a few microseconds off your attack string.
Like a fighting game. Oh my god.
Like a fighting game. And you know what? The fun part that the game, I think, doesn't tell you is when you switch stances, it puts you in parry frames.
Yeah.
So the white wind that encircles him, if someone hits you during that, Cloud will go into a wide spin AoE counter, which builds a ton of stagger gauge too.
Oh, I
like
do
it's
that
the coolest
all-
thing to do on accident, but it's even cooler when you do it on
Do it
purpose.
Yeah.
And you
man.
get the stagger right off that.
Oh god, I love staggering those mofos.
Yeah, so Cloud has a bunch of tricks on that. He also has the hold square to do a specific action depending on your stance, which also has some windows of optimizing into that the transition in between.
Yeah, and also the new materia is really interesting.
Yeah, the materia just gives you straight up Devil May Cry move sometimes,
Yeah.
which also has its own series of cancellation windows, which I am just going nuts over. I think one of my favorite ones is what most people that I've talked to don't know is how Barret has immediate overcharge at the start, right? And so, of course, the first thing you do at the beginning of combat is just press triangle to pop it and build up, like, say, 35 to 50% of your ATB gauge, which is like essentially a free action and like big damage. So you notice how when Barret shoots with his regular square attack, he will overheat. Like his arm overheats and he stops doing whatever action, right? You can actually go into a regular charge to cancel the overheat animation, and it recovers slightly faster than waiting for the overheat. So you're getting
dispelling
charge
the
back. Yeah, you're dispelling the heat. So it comes to the point where like I get a bit greedy where like I'm about to overheat my gun, but my actions are filled. Just let me get the quick charge, then I'll do a spell, right? And then I eat shit for it.
okay,
Like I could have saved them that half a second to do something else.
I gotta ask you, Miggy, how often has that little trick like yielded incredible success, and how often has that trick also gotten you into fucking trouble?
When it gets me into trouble, it's purely my fault because like I shouldn't have gone for it, but I wanted to, just to get that little suck on this, blah blah blah.
Hashtag
Or
no
those moments where
regrets.
like your ATB is filled, but I press overcharge, and I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, I should have used that first. I should have done an action first.
No regrets.
So like,
no regrets.
no, I'm in it now. I just gotta commit. So every character has their own little tricks of that, and it's absolutely fantastic. All the characters feel incredibly different,
Yeah, that's a great.
and
thing
they're
also.
all fun to me. Like all their actions are incredibly unique. They all have strengths and weaknesses. So when you encounter those solo battles where you can't use another character, you have to think about how to build your loadout specifically to complement your weaknesses. which is what makes me wish for loadout saving even more.
Yeah.
Just like, god damn it, game, you made the combat this deep, but you omitted to have the ability to save loadouts. Because
Just
It's
two
so
loadouts. Just 2 loadouts or 3 loadouts. Come on, guys.
fuck, even just one, Christ, it's better than nothing. 2 would be the best. Like a solo build and your group build would be nice.
Mm-mm.
Oh god, the combat is so good.
Oh, did we lose Carlos?
No, I'm still
I
here.
don't know.
I'm still here.
What about you, Lost? You're also the big action man. What do you think
Lost,
about the
I
fights?
hear you're playing this game too.
No, I finished it.
Rumor has it he's beaten it.
I think I finished it
Yeah.
already. No,
Rumor has it he's still there.
No, I pretty much agree with what you guys said, and like they brought up the original and they gave it in a good way. It was actually pretty
They
cool.
managed to sneak in the ATB system in a good way.
Yep.
Which is what I wasn't expecting. I was fully expecting this to be FF15 combat.
Mm-mm.
It's a mix of.
I mean, it kind of is, but it's just flat out better.
It's a mix-
It's a good evolution.
It's a mix of
It's
Final
like-
Fantasy VII's system with Final Fantasy 15 combat and the stagger system of Final Fantasy 13.
I'm kind of
so-
wishing like we get a new Dissidia game with a similar type of system now. You know, just to make it less spammy.
Man,
in
can I
terms
just say,
of your attacks.
there'll also be guys who'd be like, the people who would be like, all right, guys, what's the next game Square Enix should remake? Let them finish Final Fantasy VII
Yes,
first.
please.
Jesus Christ.
We need at least 3 more or 2 more before we can finish this story off.
Like, guys, Jesus. Let them finish their work. Tetsuya Nomura takes forever to finish Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh my! He didn't even know he was the director for like the first 30% of development.
I know.
Passing the torch without telling them. But yeah. No, but yeah, that's
He probably went into the office and then, he saw his things had been moved.
no, but yeah. What else you guys think about the game?
Okay, so this game is amazing, but it's not perfect.
Yeah?
And that's like I'd say that this game, at the very least, in Square Enix's track record, this game does gamification a lot better than it's done beforehand.
Yeah?
But at the same time, you get those moments where like, this is obviously padding. I'm spending 5 hours here when story progress is literally in the next room. But how I open this door, I have to run around for 10 hours doing whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I tend to think of it more positively, but at the same time, I also find it frustrating in the sense that, so there's this Wired article about the game, like they reviewed it, and they said, there's a phrase they use, they call it, all filler, all killer, meaning there's a way that the game is padded out to feel like story beats take forever to happen, and so that means, yes, there is filler, but the actual filler never feels... It doesn't feel tedious, but it does make you feel impatient. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's that's
like,
the feeling.
Yeah, so like I think the biggest moment for me is like when you leave Don Corneo's the phase of the story where you're with Don Corneo and you have to get to another point in the story at Sector 7. It's like a 3-hour journey of combat and traveling through territory, and all of that is enjoyable. But I'm almost like, seriously, guys, you made me go for 3 hours of this stuff just to get to the next story beat?
It's that, and then they throw like a bunch of silly mini games at you on the way.
Yeah.
Like the whole robot arms to make platforms. That is so unnecessary.
Yeah.
I don't
It
remember
could have
that
just
happening
been
in
a
the
straight
OG.
shot of combat.
But wasn't that in the original game? I forget.
It was just there as part of the
The
background.
robot arms.
That's just
Yeah,
there.
Yeah,
I think
they
it's an
weren't a
original-
mini game.
It was just there.
And
I thought what was really
especially,
interesting was they kept the train yard segment from the original game.
oh yeah, that entire chapter is completely made up with the enemies you fight there. I'd say that was a like a cute moment too, but you can tell like that's where it pads things out. But I'd say especially come the last 3 chapters, Matthew, you're gonna feel it.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be a lot more obvious, like in your eyes up front. Like it's still fun, but you really feel the impatience building up.
This doesn't
feeling
have to
impatient
be
build up
that long. Like it'll be
Dude,
even
chapter
worse.
17 is probably the most egregious
Chapter
one.
17 is,
Yeah.
I agree with Miggy, because it's like you don't need to bring it all the way this. Okay,
It didn't
fine.
have to be that long.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind the moment, but they extend it further than you feel like it needs to be. Like granted that the fight after that is balls hard, but
Yeah.
you know, leveling up isn't as important as a factor here as it was back then.
Yeah, I just feel like there's this weird sensibility that informs the project direction or the creative direction or whatever game design. Like where they were all like, okay, we need to have quote unquote gameplay or content in these parts, and fortunately none of that is bad. But also it feels like it's working at the expense of the rhythm and pacing of the story, which in itself is already going to be like. For me already, I'm feeling like, oh, I can't wait to get to like the parts of the game that I know some spoilers about, or I can't wait to get to all these revelations at the end of the game. Like, god damn it, video game, let me finish you already. But I also know that when I get to that part, I'll be like, what? The video game's over.
Yeah. I'd say like some of the padding, especially once you unlock hard mode, that's when the challenge comes in. Because hard mode has this feature where you can restore HP, but MP is a limited resource.
Yeah.
You cannot use items to refill your magic gauge. You cannot use items to heal. So everything is dependent on how much you spend, or how much you control spending MP to do certain actions. So
can you still smash boxes to taste the Mako?
dude,
No,
Mako
that's
shards
very- yeah.
is something I just want sometimes.
That becomes
Like,
actually
back
a key
then, I
thing
was
for the
like-
hard mode for sure.
Yeah, 7 MP is like the greatest thing you can get from a box.
That's a heal or two.
That's a heal. Like healing base level spells are 4 MP. Like that's when it starts to count. And just thinking about how long certain combat sections are, that's where the challenge comes in. But during the initial playthrough, you're like, this moment could have been cut in half. And by half, it's literally 5 more hours. Because I swear that final chapter is fuck, man.
I wish that they
It
actually.
didn't have to be that
I wish
long.
Square could at least share some padding and put it in RE3 in a way so that
It could have. Yeah, RE3 needed more, man. Jesus.
because that's a good example of one game with too much padding and one game with just not enough padding.
And the thing is,
Yeah.
Resident Evil 3 already took out some of the stuff that was in it.
In lieu of some other new stuff.
Let's take
but-
out.
You
Let's
know,
take out. Let's take out shit.
they took out the choices and stuff like that.
But yeah.
Oh man.
But is it? I don't know. Like when I was actually thinking about the game, and I was like, yes, this has a lot of padding.
But I want to say, guys, like even though, like again, not a big Final Fantasy VII fan,
We
this
get
is
it,
a
yeah.
big, this is a big win for me. Like this
Yep.
game has made me a convert, and shockingly, it's my first GOTY candidate for the year, first Game of the Year candidate of the year.
Actually, I think I'm also with Matt on that because there's a lot of aspects of the game that I feel they do right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like
For
it
the
redefines
community, for
Yeah.
those who love JRPGs lang in general, or just it's just, because even if you take out all the fan base and the everything about it, it's just also just a really good video game.
It's just a good game.
It's a good
And
game.
I was in the fear of like maybe this will only be good to like Final Fantasy VII fans, or
No,
at the
maybe-
very least it's gonna be a mediocre, slightly above average Square game. But
Or what if the other scenario? What if what would be really weird is, Miggy, what if it's like, oh, this game is only good to people who have never played Final Fantasy VII? That could have been another scenario.
that could have been it, right? Like I was hard pessimistic when it came to tackling this game because as I was playing it, like it's really good, but I wouldn't say it's Game of the Year material. But now that I've beaten it, I'm on board that Game of the Year train. It's like, oh god, they're right. It's just so good. And what I wanted to bring up was, you know how like remakes, especially games games need to appeal to a wider array of a wider audience.
Right.
Meaning not just the OG fans, not just people who actively play video games for as a hobby. It needs to appeal to even the casual market, which is by far a greater percentage of what we are.
Right.
Yeah.
And like
And it's also just the fact that you need to have larger audiences to justify the production expenses for games like
Exactly.
this anyway. Yeah.
right, like it needs to stand alone as its own product, and not just bank on like the hard fans that have followed it for all these years. And from what I'm seeing is that like the new crowd who haven't who doesn't know that Aeris gets stabbed by Sephiroth is all like, yo, this game is pretty good.
I mean, some of these people already know Ares gets stabbed because it's part of internet legend, but at the same
Right.
time, they don't have that personal connection with the character, and I think it's incredibly exciting to think about that, to think about the new generation of gamers who are just going to be like, who get to discover these characters for the very first time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
think
want.
that's
I actually
incredible.
am kind of curious on the original Final Fantasy VII sales now, because I wouldn't if I after finishing the game I was like I kind of want to play the game again. Just I kind of want to go through
Just to
the
see how much of a difference it's made in certain segments.
or just move past Midgar, or like to get more of the story.
Dude,
Like, I just want to do it.
I want to do
No,
like I forgot
wanna
most
play.
of the story of the original game.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what's
No,
astonishing is how much I remember.
like I
you
remember
played
the
it more
big beats.
recently than
I
we
remember the
did.
big beats of the game, but just
Yeah.
going through like those like
I
like
played
a
it in
high
2001,
end
dude.
like group of people with all the material, all like just all that fun. And I'm kind of curious if there's a lot of people actually just having the same thought, like I want to play it again, or even the ones like you mentioned.
Just to know what happens next.
no, just to experience,
Yeah.
to go know what happens and to just play.
You mean to like the people who read Harry Potter novels after they watch the first movie? Just be like, yeah, or Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because I was like,
You
oh
know,
my god,
book
there's
was
like
so much
300% sales on Steam for Final Fantasy VII. Thanks, remake. Like,
the HD,
the HD 4K
great.
remake, yeah,
the
Yeah,
HD
you know,
port of the original
the
game.
remastered.
I think it cannot be understated what a monumental accomplishment this game is, regardless of how one feels it is in terms of like as a quality game or not or whatever. It's still kind of a monumental accomplishment, no matter what, in the sense that it really redefines the concept of what a remake is. Because we've had
Yeah.
we've had
Dude.
we've had
Yeah.
remasters where people like where games get upscaled and the graphics get improved or whatever. Like Metal Gear Solid gets converted from, let's say, PS2 to PS4 or whatever. Or we've seen versions where definitive editions where they just take the same game but they redo all the art assets, like Spyro the Dragon, where or Wonder Boy, where it goes from pixel art to cartoon art. But no other remake has ever tried to accomplish what Final Fantasy VII has
Exactly.
done, in the sense of not just making things feel more palatable from an audiovisual presentation, but give serious reconsideration to how mechanics work, how the story is told, what the characters are saying, what the structure of the whole work will be. And so I think Final Fantasy VII Remake is the beginning of something very exciting, not just the beginning of this supposedly episodic saga, which could be anywhere between 2, 3, 4, 5 games, or it's also the beginning of something that may lead to future remakes of other titles that do more than just bring the graphics to an Unreal Engine platform or what fucking ever.
Right.
Resident-
So I'd say, in terms of the trend of what a remake is supposed to be, the first one to actually break the at least make a good standard was the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah.
Because up until then, we've had remasters, or the word remake hasn't been cleared, because some companies would treat it as a remaster, or parang
There is no
graphics from the ground up,
standardization.
right? Like graphics from the
Yeah.
ground up, but it's exactly the same game, like the Crash Bandicoot one or the
Yeah,
Spyro
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Or you'd have companies straight up lie by saying it's a remake, but it's actually just a remaster with better textures.
Or yeah.
know?
Like I think what you're saying is like there's the companies or the marketing will
Yeah.
call it remake or remaster, but there is no universally agreed perception
Right.
of what technologies, techniques constitute that label.
Yeah.
I mean, there are all those Final Fantasy ports that we have, wherein, yeah, sure, they ported it to work on an Android tablet or a modern PC, and the character models are high res, but the textures for the backgrounds are shit because they couldn't find the assets for that because Square, lost the original assets.
Right.
I
So,
hope they
well,
use the word reimagining, so because that's what I feel about Final Fantasy VII R.
There's a
Because
discussion about that somewhere,
yeah,
specifically
our-
for this game.
and
Yeah, Miggy is right. RE2 remake sort of like paved the way, but Final Fantasy VII
This
did
has
it really
broken past that wall, and it's becoming a completely different experience.
And RE2 remake was just last year. You didn't think they would break
Yeah.
that like so soon after, big
It's
move,
Resident Evil 2, right? It's not a remake. They just flat out, just like how
Yeah, they
Resident
just
Evil.
call it Resident
even
Evil
with RE3,
parenthesis.
it's also a
They
remake.
didn't slap the word
They
remake
didn't really
on
slap
it.
the remake.
Yeah, that's why in my review I only call it Resident Evil 3 2020 because officially speaking,
Same with Doom,
remake's
I
not the
guess,
title. Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's Doom
Yeah,
2016,
same with
right?
Doom.
And
If
that's,
anything, people put a remake
Doom.
as a formality on websites just to maintain clarity.
Right.
yeah,
it's
for sure.
It's they do that to maintain clarity, but at the same time they confuse the meaning of remaster and remake as one sometimes.
Yeah.
So back then, before I'd say RE2, that term was not clear as to what it meant.
Mm-mm.
But this game has cemented, like this is what a remake should be. It should be completely different, but at the same time, hit some similarities from the previous or the original, and what I don't know, man. It's destroyed my expectations as to what this game was
Yeah.
supposed to
Now I fear for literally every game designer or game studio right now, and I don't think there are many, or I don't think there are any that I know, who is thinking, we are going to remake our classic game, and then they look at FF7 Remake and they're just like, oh, okay, let's not do that.
I hope
you
they
guys.
take it as a challenge, because I really want it to be a thing where we definitely see classics come over from any other genre, because that's the reason why I like RE2 Remake,
Mhm.
and it was my game of the year. And same reason with Final Fantasy VII R, and the fact that we have a survivor horror remade done, JRPG remade done. Anything's possible at this point, because definitely people like soak it in if done right.
Give me,
Right.
give me fucking Dino Crisis. Give me Parasite Eve.
Dude,
Yeah,
Give me Valkyrie Profile.
give me Parasite Eve. I would love to have Parasite Eve.
Give me Valkyrie Profile, motherfucker.
Give me
can we have
give me
Chrono
Chrono
Cross
Trigger.
that isn't linked to Chrono Trigger?
I was about
Yes,
to say
Chrono Cross.
Chrono Trigger, but fine. Chrono Cross is actually pretty good too.
Xenogears.
Xenogears.
Or the
They
re-
need to
or the
fix that.
or the remake of Super Mario Bros. Like any of those
Fucking, Nintendo announced that we're getting Xenoblade Chronicles,
remaster.
and that looks
Right?
remaster, but it looks like it's made from the ground up, because the assets look completely different than the original.
I don't
game.
remember the original, so I can't.
I do, and as much as how good the original game was, that game was like dog shit. And if it was just as simple as a graphics update, it looks completely different.
Wait,
Like, even the-
was Trial
the
of
camera work
Mana
looks
a
different.
remaster or remake? Because they rebuilt that Trial of Mana game, right? Or am I
It's
wrong?
I think it's a full remake, because wasn't the original one a 2D?
That's why I was like, so
Yo,
they've-
yo, 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 yo.
yeah.
We need remakes of bad games. That's what we need. We need
Oh,
remakes.
dude,
Pepsi
right to
Man,
hell.
Pepsi Man.
Pepsi Man is not a bad game.
Is it?
Shut up. We need Pepsi Man
Anyway.
in English, because that game never came out in English.
Mortal Kombat 10, I think, is a remake, but sure.
Oh no, dude!
Or is it
Mortal
9?
Kombat
9. is
9
the remake.
was the
remake.
reboot.
Okay, there you go.
But Mortal
reboot's what
Kombat
they
has
say is.
exceeded past what you can do with Mortal Kombat.
Sorry,
Dude,
I
look
said
up
reboot. That was the word. Yeah.
No. Here, Mortal Kombat has also gone past this, in a sense where do you go from here?
Where do we go from
No,
here?
because
No.
for real, MK11 does something crazy where it acknowledges every single version of Mortal Kombat that has ever come out in the entirety of its lifespan.
Well, then
Does it end with Chronica going, and I'll be rid of turtles forever?
Dude, you wish. Like, as in,
have
literally, Liu
Mortal-
Kang can make whatever game he fucking wants.
Wait. Before
I-
we
I-
derail
I-
ourselves, we didn't mention about did we mention about the JPEGs of Final Fantasy VII R yet?
Oh,
We didn't mention this yet.
That's specifically a problem
Yeah.
that I have yelled about.
No, and
Very
I
fast.
highly agree, which is funny every single time it
Whoa,
happens.
what are we talking about?
The background.
This fucking FF7 remake has some horrendous skyboxes sometimes.
Yeah, when you're like overlooking the city from afar, instead of like rendering the buildings, they just put a backdrop or like a JPEG that
A really poorly
Low
like,
res.
compressed JPEG.
yeah,
too.
and it
Oh my
and
god.
it just shows inconsistency with how good the game looks.
Well, that's
every
because
single
the
time.
PS4 should have been put out to pasture 2 years ago.
I just want to point that out because they have like it's not a, we're giving the game a lot of praise, but it's definitely not a perfect game. Critically, there is issues about it. Like for me personally, as someone who was waiting for a remake like this and it happened, like it just this exceeded my expectations. But in terms of a critic,
I don't know about you, Carlos, but this game is getting a 10 out of 10 after I got my check from Square Enix.
Oh my god. Sponsored sponsored podcast. Please.
Well, since I'm not being paid and you're being paid, I'll give it a 9.
Isn't the deal that you have to mention it's sponsored every 20 minutes or so?
Or hashtag. No. The title has to be hashtag ad, and that's about it. We're good.
Hashtag ad,
Yeah.
hashtag sponsored.
That's about it. No, but it has like definitely technical
They're
issues.
sending me.
with...
They're paying me. They're sending me the super secret copy of Valkyrie Profile Remake
Lenneth
in
2
exchange
for the PSP. Amazing.
for the Vita.
Yun nga, like this game is like don't get me wrong, this game is gorgeous. But when there are moments where it's not, just you don't look at it too hard.
Yeah, how about
Cloud's
those
door.
doors?
Holy
Cloud's
How about
door
those
is like
door
the big.
textures?
Yeah,
Those 3 doors refuse to load, no matter how long you look at them.
Cloud's door and the railings in the house, the where he is really, where he sleeps is really a big testament to what's wrong.
When I was sharing those atrocious screenshots, people were going like, "Oh, hindi ko kasi naka PS4 Pro kaya pangit."
No.
And I'm like, dude, it's the same for everyone.
It's not like
And even if it was a,
it's
even
not
if
bad.
it was a
It's just not
PS4
loading.
Pro problem,
It's just not loading.
yeah, it refuses to load.
It doesn't load.
Almost as if it's not there.
I've
Well,
tested.
I swear.
I've tested it
if it's-
where
if
I
it's
saved on one spot that was like low res. I loaded it. It didn't happen.
No,
But I
but they
looked,
made it-
Exactly the same.
and I loaded it again. Then it loaded. I'm like, well, how do I trigger this to perfectly,
If they made it
no,
for the PS4, it
there
should
are
load
moments
the
when it
PS4.
can load, but there are moments where it does not, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
That's
Those doors will never load.
or the sandbags. You look for the sandbags. Those sandbags.
There are
funny.
certain boxes too that just refuse to load.
Yeah, or the Shinra boxes
And
in
I swear-
itself. They don't have
No, I'd say it's because of how pretty this game looks and how smoothly it runs. It's most likely a performance thing, either that or a budget constraint in certain parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tifa's
Like
gotta
something-
look good, but the girl from the
something-
corner should not look good.
And like I don't know the skybox specifically. I don't know if it's a memory issue where they can't widen it as far as they could have.
I think it's more of
Yeah.
a
Because
I
to
think
me,
some-
it's like
I
the
think it's
problem is
limitations.
it's too close, so it doesn't give you the illusion that it's supposed to be something off in the distance. You can see where it ends. That's what
Yeah.
breaks the illusion. So when like the perspective, like I'd say the most egregious skyboxes are ones where you can look downwards, because that's where you see like buildings stretch at angles where they shouldn't stretch yet. So like Matthew, you reach the point where you have to turn off the sun lamps, right?
Yeah.
And you cross that like little rickety bridge, and Barrett
Yeah,
goes,
yeah, yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
don't look down. I'm afraid of heights."
look down.
what
and
do
then
we
you
do?
do look down, and like,
Look
man,
down.
those houses look
So
terrible.
are you telling us that Barrett telling us to not look down is the developers telling us to not look down?
Pretty much, dude.
But we do anyway. Whenever you say
Yeah.
don't look down, we
How can
always
you
look
not?
down.
You
Yeah.
can see the folds in Midgar.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh my god!
But I just wanna
I'd
point
say
that
that's
out.
a performance thing.
Yeah, I want to point that
there you
out
go.
because that sticked out like a sore thumb all throughout like my 40.
But
hour-
also, what's amazing about this game is that I counted only 4 pre-rendered cutscenes, like the opening, of course, the ending, and then there's 2 scenes where it's too pretty to have in game render, but everything else is purely game rendered. Like
Wait.
even the Advent Children like levels of crazy cutscenes are like game rendered.
I personally like the in-game graphics more than the rendered, the CG cinematics. For
No,
some
no,
reason.
of course, but like the fidelity of the pre-rendered cutscenes is it's too elaborate to be done via the game render. Or
Yeah,
parang
so
it was intentional like
even though there's video compression going on, there's just too many things going on for it to have been possible in the engine.
yeah, like if these certain effects were to play out in a normal game rendered cutscenes, your PS4 would catch fire, you know. There's too many particles on screen, etc., etc. But yun nga, like this game runs so well. Like even some of the in-game animations that are incredibly cinematic just work so smoothly that it's hard to get this game to like not perform at 30 frames per second or 60 or whatever, you know.
I cannot wait for the inevitable PC port.
No, dude. Have they announced one officially?
They haven't said it they haven't verbally said it or written it, but there is
But it's not out of the
the
realm of
latest trailer
possibility.
has like PC gameplay footage
Yeah, there-
taken in PC. I'm like,
It is
wow.
widely assumed by the cognoscenti based on a recent trailer that said footage taken from PC,
Yeah,
that
I
this is
said,
an
yeah.
indication that there will be a PC version, even though it categorically is not a statement of such.
Well, hopefully they repaint some of those skyboxes, because hot damn.
Yeah, no.
Some of them are hella ugly.
The master race will lose their shit.
I think it might be a problem where the in-game lighting is also just really good. Because like the lighting is incredibly dynamic. Fucking the shadows are high res as hell. So like it comes to a point where certain shading in the skybox
That would
doesn't
normally
match.
obscure. That would
Yeah,
normally
yeah,
obscure a game.
Like the contrast doesn't match what you're seeing on the characters, which is
Yeah.
what breaks the illusion in certain points.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I can't fault it for that. It's just that it's just so ugly sometimes that you cannot look away.
So yeah. So
It's also
I guess
like last bit for the skybox is you know how certain games have it so that the skybox moves,
yeah.
like to give a faux sense of motion going on, like the clouds move and all that. In FF7R, the skyboxes are purely stationary, which I think also like which makes accentuates some of the problems even more. So I'm sure it'll be great once we leave Midgard, so we don't have to look at a pizza in the sky. We have to look at an actual sky, which might make it look better, but I don't know.
we'll leave that Midgar special behind.
Yeah, man. That Millennium Falcon is looking pretty old in the sky.
The garbage will do.
But yeah, I think that's
And
Square Enix saying that's garbage. Use it.
And that has been.
Huh?
I was pretending to outro this podcast.
What else we got outside of spoilers?
No, I think it's about it.
And I see Miguel Sampson has joined the chat.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's it for Final Fantasy VII Remake, unless there's anybody else who wants to say anything else.
Pretty much that's me outside of the story beats.
Yeah.
Super good. Not perfect, but I'd still say the good heavily outweighs the bad.
I feel like for me, like I can complain about the game, but all of it feels like incredible nitpicking or just kind
Super
of like
nitpicking, yeah.
Yeah. Like I was even joking to myself. Let's say the one version of my review would be like 9 out of 10, minus 1 point because which is game takes too long to play.
Right. But it like say the padding and side quests don't hit the point where how most games make it like just egregious enough that you can dock at a point.
Yeah.
Like most of it is pretty condensed that if you know where to look, you can still breeze through it pretty fast.
Yeah. Minus 1 point for being too good.
It can't be perfect. It
game-
doesn't exist.
Games should not be allowed to be this good. Minus one.
It made me cry. 9 out of 10.
For doing more than the minimum requirements of your homework, Mr. Potter. I dock you 50 points from House Gryffindor.
It's not turn-based. 9 out of 10. Oh my god.
But yeah, I think that's it for episode 200.
200 guys. We made it to 200.
Big podcast special.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna do the one where we talk about everything spoilery
Spoiler cast.
Story beats, baby.
for Final Fantasy VII R, which should be out.
We
It
gotta
should be out
talk about
already, so it should be up there. So if you guys want to join the discussion about that, jump right over there.
And by the time that spoiler cast drops, you should have my official review.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah, and the Migs will join us, so that'll be like a 4-man discussion about
A big pizza.
a big pizza, a big gathering
Pizza in the sky.
about what happened and how, I guess, also talking about what are we gonna do moving forward as well.
Oh
With what
man,
they've
yeah.
done. So that's like one of those two things we might be able to tackle on that spoiler cast. So, but yeah, I think that's it. Thanks, guys. If you want to hear other content like this, just drop it on to the TMG podcast and all our other content at www.toomuchgaming.net. And if you want to hear more about Matthew, what's your Twitter again?
At Arcelia Matthew, you can yell at me for all your opinions about video games.
Yeah. And I think that's about it. See you guys in the next one. See ya.
Bye.
Toodaloo. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, na, 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 na.